So we're diving into a really interesting question today. It comes from the Joseon. That's the community of ethnic Koreans living in China, and they're asking how they can hold on to their identity when they're under so much pressure. And the answer we're going to explore from our source material, well, it's not about politics or protests. It's something much, much bigger, almost cosmic. Let's get into it.
So this whole thing kicked off from a place of very real worry. A member of the Joseon community basically said, look, with all this government surveillance and control, it feels like our identity, our unique culture, is just fading away. That really sets the stage for why they're looking for an answer, for some kind of solution.
And that's the big question, isn't it? When a group of people feels like their heritage is on the line, what do you do? What's the path forward? The source we're looking at today offers a very particular answer to this very real-world problem.
Okay, so what are we actually talking about here? What kind of pressures is this community really facing? Let's break down the specific challenges that the source material lays out.
According to our source, there are a few key things going on. There's this sense of constant surveillance, right? And then there are restrictions that make it harder to express their unique ethnic identity. At the same time, their cultural connections back to the Korean peninsula are getting weaker. And all of this is happening while there's a bigger push for them to identify more strongly as Chinese nationals. It's a classic tug-of-war, cultural preservation versus assimilation.
Now, when you hear all that, you're probably expecting a solution that involves some kind of political action or maybe community organizing. But this is where things take a really unexpected turn. The source we're examining just reframes the entire problem by zooming way, way out.
Yeah, instead of focusing on immediate, practical solutions, the speaker looks at history and, honestly, the cosmos. He basically argues that to understand the situation for the Joseon today, you first have to understand the purpose of the entire Korean diaspora throughout all of time.
And this quote right here, it just nails his perspective. The idea is that the Korean people aren't just contained to the peninsula. In his view, they've been intentionally spread all over the world as part of a much larger plan. So the Joseon in China, they aren't some isolated case, they're just one piece of this giant global puzzle.
So this timeline lays out this really grand historical story. According to the speaker, the diaspora isn't some modern accident caused by war or economics. No, he claims it started way back in ancient times, with these seeds of the people being planted all over the globe. The Korean peninsula's job, then, was to act like a special garden, to cultivate a unique cultural DNA. So the diaspora today is just the next phase of this ancient, deliberate process.
And all of that brings us to the absolute heart of the speaker's philosophy. This idea that the Korean peninsula has a very special mission, something he calls the headquarters theory.
Okay, so what is this headquarters? Well, in this worldview, the peninsula isn't just another country. It's the bamboo, the headquarters. And its entire purpose is to develop this deep, profound wisdom, a shining light. But here's the kicker. It's not for itself. It's meant to be shared with the whole world. It's a mission of service, not self-interest.
And just think about what that means for a second. This theory suggests that the rest of the world, including all the diaspora communities like the Joseon, are all waiting, whether they know it or not, for this light, this wisdom, to finally emerge from the headquarters in South Korea.
Now, if you have a philosophy like that, it also leads to a really unique definition of what it even means for a nation to be truly great.
The speaker draws a really sharp line in the sand here. The common view is that a great nation is powerful or rich or smart, all for its own benefit. But he totally rejects that. In his philosophy, true greatness comes from being needed by humanity. It comes from providing something essential for the world and earning global respect because you serve a purpose.
This quote just sums it all up perfectly. Greatness isn't about demanding power or being the strongest. It's about earning the world's respect because you offer something of real value. And in this view, that respect is the truest form of leadership.
So after all that, how does this grand cosmic philosophy actually circle back to help the Joseon in China? This is where the theory turns into some very specific practical advice.
So the speaker's advice is really a message of patience. He argues against demanding special treatment from the Chinese government. He says, look, lots of minority groups are making similar demands. Instead, he argues the real solution has to come from inside the headquarters, from South Korea. The focus should be on waiting for the peninsula to finally fulfill its mission and become that shining light for the world.
And this is the final takeaway, the bottom line of his whole argument.
The idea is that once South Korea achieves its purpose and shines its wisdom out to the world, the benefits will just naturally flow to all the Korean communities out there, including the Joseonjuk. Their identity and their struggles will be resolved not by direct action where they are, but as a positive side effect of the headquarters finally succeeding in its global mission.
So that leaves us with this pretty big question to chew on. And you don't have to agree with this specific philosophy to think about it. What does it actually mean for any nation to shine for the world? Is it through culture, technology, wisdom, something else? It's a pretty powerful idea to consider.